As the TUC discussed the major economic and political issues of the day, Unite the Union held a fringe event to discuss how we can reconnect Britain. We spoke to some of the panellists, and here's what they had to say.
I represent a very deprived ward in Brixton. I'm a Labour councillor. And the first thing that young people in Brixton want to see the government doing is listening to young people. Some 57% of young people actually volunteer and give their time. Young people want to know that they have a future, so they need to be listened to. So all the cuts that governments are making, that councils are making, young people are saying that's not right. So we need to invest in young people, we need to invest in jobs, and we need to make young people feel like they have a future in Britain and the rest of society.
I think there's a crisis facing young people in Britain today, especially young working class people. There's over 1 million people unemployed. That's the highest on record. And the problem we have in communities across the country is a sense amongst many young people of no secure future to risk at all. And it's not to justify the riots in any sense. These were riots which traumatised entire communities and left people scared and angry, and understandably so. But we have to understand what happened. And I think it's impossible not to understand it by looking at the sense of so many young people who don't feel they have anything to put at risk. A generation ago, for young working class men in particular, you had apprenticeships which were respectably paid, skilled, and were a gateway to a future job which gave life structure. And those disappeared and nothing really filled the vacuum. And in many communities across the country, there isn't that sense of anything to look forward to. And for me, I think what's really worrying about these riots is there could be the very dark foreshadow of worse to come. And that's why it's so important that the trade unions go into communities across the country and organise on a community basis, particularly organising young people, to give people's frustration, anger, disenchantment a positive political direction. And if it does that, I think then we can actually build a real movement for change in Britain. But otherwise, I think we could see far uglier scenes than we saw last month.
I came to today's meeting to talk about my response to the hacking scandal, because I think it does go to the very heart of the debate about how do we talk to Britain and how do people express their voice. Because what's clear is we now know that Rupert Murdoch owned too much of the media estate in the UK. He became too powerful, and all those institutions that are supposed to provide checks and balances to a powerful press failed. Politicians failed to speak out, the police failed to investigate crimes properly, the court service didn't follow that up, other newspapers didn't report wrongdoing when there was clearly a story. And so I came to talk about what happens post the hacking scandal. Now that everyone in Britain knows that Rupert Murdoch was too powerful, what are some of the remedies? We need a new Press Complaints Commission. We need to revisit the idea of journalistic ethics, and that's a huge challenge for the trade union movement. I made the point that when Rupert Murdoch drove the trade unions out of Wapping, he also drove out the NUJ Code of Ethics, which would perhaps stopped his newsroom subverting the truth and breaking the law. So there's a great opportunity for us now to reconnect, to get a free press in the most noble sense back on the agenda.